Hello and welcome to my channel on human design. Today I want to look at the issue of control. Now, if we look at the Rave I Ching and we look for control, we find it in gate 21. It's a will gate. It's a very powerful will gate. And I don't want to go through the whole hexagram, but I do want to look at the yang lines in it because it tells us a lot. And I want to look at control, the nature of control, both outer and inner in this video. So it's worth hanging around because you're going to learn different things about your own process through what I'm about to take you through. So control. Let's look at it in the brown text in the Rave I Ching will tell us the justified and necessary use of power in overcoming deliberate and persistent interference. So this is about imposing a control and making sure that the interference is handled. If you look at it in the first line, it is the last resort. This is the fierceness to be respected without the recourse to action, the willpower and ego to ensure respect. Think about it as a letter you get from the tax office or from the government in some way. They assume they have the control and they write to you with a warning. This is the line of warning. You have not done this, or you should have done that. This is a warning. And there's a fierceness, there's an implied threat behind it. The other side of it is an inherent peacefulness that all too often turns a necessary warning into a plea, a lack of willpower that is forced to ask for respect. And you can think about that in terms of an organization that's just beginning and they need support, and they haven't established their foundation properly yet. So their warnings don't really mean anything. If they say, well, look, if you don't come and help us, then there's going to be a consequence for the people, a consequence for the planet, whatever it may be. But it's very different from a government letter. It's like, well, there's going to be consequences there. It's a warning, but still, that's all it is. If we take it to the next yang line, we come to the fourth line, something that is in harmony with the warning. This is strategy, careful appraisal of opposing forces to establish a proper response, success in action through clarity, the ego to succeed on the material plane, and the instinct to use willpower effectively in response to conditions. So in other words, this is, if we think about the fourth line, this is a friendly line or a mean line. I mean, it's like, if everything's going well, fine, certain amount of latitude, but this far and no further. Using that will, letting that will come out when it needs to, in the quality of the voice or the direction and the force of the action that is taken. In the detrimental side, a tendency when in the right to misjudge the power of one's opponents, the drive when in the right to follow one's ego rather than one's instincts. Again, if I apply it to the control mechanisms that are being imposed upon many people in the world at the moment, they've underestimated the people in some circumstances. There have been riots, there have been a falling down of the control where the respect is not there. If they get it wrong, they lose control. And finally, if we go to the final yang line in the sixth line, this is in the line of chaos. I do like this, where ineffective action leads to disorder. In the exaltation, the war of attrition, the continuance of legitimate action in the hope of eventually succeeding despite the odds and increasing disorder. where the ego is out of touch, the display of willpower leads to disorder. And that's in the exaltation. And the other side is withdrawal and reliance on inner order in a chaotic situation, where the material direction is chaotic, the ego will withdraw, and the use of its power will find an inner order. I want you to think about the chaos that is happening at the moment in Oxford and various cities in England, where they are trying to impose 15-minute cities, where you're not allowed to go out of a certain area, you're not allowed to drive through, and if you are, your number plate is photographed and you're fined, or at least they send you a fine. Whether you pay it or not is something else, but the chaos comes up because the people are putting bags over the cameras, and they're taking down the cameras, and they're removing the obstacles, because the powers that be are out of touch with the people. The ego out of touch with the people that they're trying to control. Chaos will come as a result of that. So that's outer control, and an understanding about the will gate and the application of will. So now I want to look at it in terms of inner control, and in particular, the fact that we know that the mind itself is our biggest enemy in the journey of waking up. I want you to understand that the 21st gate is in the first quarter of the wheel, the quarter of the mind. So when we're thinking about control, yes, we're thinking about willpower in the centers, but we're also thinking about control of the mind. And it comes in the second half of the quarter of initiation, which means it's really like a very strong force, a strong mental control. Now we think about our own process in letting go of the conditioning. In the first line, that fierce line, that line that is strong or weak, warning. Let's say you have a design that has an open throat, and you know that from human design that your natural state is silence, and yet you can't resist. You know, you're caught in the homogenized patterning of the past, and an opportunity arises, someone comes in the room, and immediately you go off on one. Now, the warning could come from the look on the person's face that what you're saying is very inappropriate, or it could come from you catching yourself in seeing their response, remembering it's not correct for you, and backing down. And in that sense, it becomes stronger. It becomes stronger that you've made a note that, wait a minute, I'm not going to play that game anymore. You know, it's like getting the foundations right. It doesn't matter that you don't have willpower, because only 35% of people do, but noticing that can become a foundation upon which to build in your process. When we come to the fourth line, when we come to the strategy, again, we have this appraisal of opposing forces. And what are the opposing forces? The opposing forces are the consequences of incorrect action, or in this case, incorrect manifestation, and correct manifestation. In other words, to be correct. There is this temptation to go back into something you've been familiar with, and yet it doesn't work. You know it doesn't work, and you're doing your best to get through it. So when you're going into a place that's going to overstimulate you, for example, you're an open throat, let's say you're an open G, you're open sacral, and you're going to go somewhere where there's a lot of people. You know, you've got a very open chart. This is going to overstimulate you. This is going to be a real test of your ability to be correct or not. And you may fail, you may be incompetent in that or not. Again, another level of noting the experience of your process. And finally, if we go to the sixth line and chaos, where ineffective action leads to disorder. You know, if you are not paying attention, if you have been distracted in something, if you're lost in the mind about something that's going on in your life and you end up in incorrect action, trying to control something that is beyond your control or is not appropriate for you to be involved with at all, there will be chaos. You can see it. There will be more disorder. You know, the person inappropriately trying to take over a situation that's gone to hell in a hand bucket, and they really don't know what they're talking about. You know, more chaos will come. So it's just something to think about control, to think about this dual aspect I'm pointing out to you, and to watch it in yourself, and also to watch it in the outside, and see how the forces of control are succeeding or not. Okay, well, I hope you enjoyed that. If you want to know more about your chart, there is a link to a free report you can download from my website in the links below. And please do like and subscribe and share this video. I would really appreciate it. Thank you. I will see you again very soon with something completely different. Bye for now.